It's time once again to take a look at the 2024 NHL Top Draft Prospects. Today we're going to be completing another version of a mock draft. This time it's going to be updated to go even further. Our last mock draft we did the top 28 picks. Well, we now know the top 30, so we're going to take it a step further today with a top 30 mock draft, and that's coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we're going to complete another mock draft today for the upcoming 2024 NHL draft. So since the last time we put one of these videos out, we have a couple of things have changed. One, a couple more teams from the playoffs have been eliminated. So we now have the top 30 picks confirmed, where last time was 28. So we're going to go a little deeper into the draft here in this video. Plus, we've had the NHL Draft Combine go down over the last number of days. It's still not quite completed, but we've got a lot of info that's come from that Combine to suggest how certain teams feel about different players. Some of the testing that's kind of given us some, positive outlooks more so than others. Some guys have kind of shifted up and down based on how they did here. So certainly, not like it's going to have a major impact for some, but I think for me at least, I know it gave me some even better impressions of a few players, and there's a couple of players that brought up a few concerns, so I've certainly shifted and adjusted my feelings and rankings on some of these players. So you're going to notice a bit of a different order today than we've had before, but a lot of it is not my own opinion. A lot of this is based on what we're hearing from these teams, the activities they're doing, who they're talking to, what players they're spending the most time with. This kind of giving us more of a true indication on not necessarily what I think, but what I think they're going to do based on what they're showing us. So we're going to hop onto the computer and start with picks number 1 all the way down through 30 and to complete this mock draft. Selecting first overall, we have the San Jose Sharks. No surprises here. They're going with Macklin Celebrini. He's been the consensus number 1 pick for some time. Very complete player. I don't know if I'd go as far as calling him a generational talent, but a really, really good option here. Going to be a franchise changer for sure. The big question right now is, will he go straight to the NHL and play for the Sharks, or will he go to BU next year? We don't know yet, but the idea of Celebrini and Will Smith being the top 2 centers in San Jose for years to come is certainly an enticing thought for them to come out of this rebuild. Number 2 overall, we have the Chicago Blackhawks, and then we have them selecting the big right shot defenseman, Artem Levshunov. Now, Levshunov is basically, through the what we're hearing from the NHL Combine, it seems to be the direction that the Blackhawks are going here. They've met with him several times, and he appears to be right near the top of their list. I mean, there's some that think that there's still a chance they take Demidov here, but all indications are the big right shot defenseman from Michigan State will be the pick here by the Blackhawks at number 2. But we'll have to wait to be seen. Maybe we'll be surprised. But still, if you think about the fact of, a lot of people like to think of Demidov playing with Bedard, but this guy could be a foundational building block on the back end as well, which is super important. At 3rd overall, we have the Anaheim Ducks. The general consensus now is that they're going to go with the big Russian defenseman, 6'7", Anton Silyev. The wingspan on this guy is absolutely incredible. I'm sure there's going to be some temptation here to go with a forward like a Demidov again if he's still available to be on the wing for, with guys like Carlson, McTavish down the road. But right now, everything we're hearing out of Anaheim, it sounds like this is going to be the guy to go with. They already have some, different offensively minded defensemen like Matnikov, Zellweger, etc. He could be the shutdown guy with the big wingspan. That could be an absolute force on the defensive end here for the Ducks moving forward. At 4th overall, we have the Columbus Blue Jackets, and right now we're saying they're going to pick Caden Lindstrom. From everything we've heard at the Draft Combine, it sounds like they've met with this player multiple times, taken him out for dinner as well, so gone a step further with Lindstrom more than other prospects, so it leads me to think he will be their guy. I mean, at the end of the day, he's viewed upon as being a dynamic forward with really size and bite here, can score lots of goals, and Columbus has been missing that big center down the middle here, so I know there's some concerns over his back and the injuries he faced this year, but right now all indications are he will be the selection for the Blue Jackets. Wouldn't be complete shock if they throw a swerve here and go with a Sam Dickinson, but right now I'm saying that Lindstrom is the pick for Columbus. At 5 overall, we have the Montreal Canadiens, and the way this thing is playing out, it looks like they're going to get Ivan Demidov. Belief around the league is, if Demidov's on the board when Montreal picks at 5, that they will not hesitate to take the very talented Russian player. Like I said, based on everything we're hearing out of Chicago, Anaheim, and Columbus, it looks like he is going to be available on the draft board when they come to pick. And honestly, they're probably going to be running to the podium to make that selection if things play out exactly like that. I mean, he's arguably the second best player in the draft by many, at least by a lot of people think that. Time will tell. Hard to say how long he'll be in Russia, probably a couple of years, but at the end of the day, he might be the game-breaking player they need to join this group in a couple of years' time when they're really ready to compete. Number 6 overall, we've got the Utah franchise. We're still using the Coyotes logo since we don't have one for them, but I'm going to have them selecting Sam Dickinson here from the OHL's London Knights. Dickinson is arguably one of the top defensemen. I think outside of Levshunov, he's probably going to be one of the first to go, if not, amongst the next group of D, the top guy here. He had a terrific showing in the Memorial Cup. Obviously had a huge role with London winning the OHL championship. This guy is a complete defenseman end to end. There's no doubt he can play both ends of the ice. He's big, good mobile puck mover. The guy can skate really good. I've watched some of those Memorial Cup games. He was phenomenal and could be an absolute game changer here on the back end for Utah. At number 7 overall, we have the Ottawa Senators, and I have them taking right shot defenseman Zane Parekh from the Saginaw Spirit, who also had a terrific showing in the Memorial Cup tournament and obviously was on the winning side here as him and Sam Dickinson's teams went head-to-head for the championship. Parekh, to me, is just an exceptional talent here. He might not be as good defensively as a Dickinson or Levshunov, but he's just absolutely, the skill in this guy is incredible. His vision, his anticipation, his IQ is off the charts. Talent-wise, offensively, it's just phenomenal. Had a 90-point season in the OHL. I'm not saying he's going to be Erik Karlsson, but he'll be the closest thing to it that Ottawa's had in their system. I know Jake Sanderson's a pretty special defenseman, but he plays a different way. Sanderson's more complete, where Parekh could be a terrific partner for Sanderson down the road. Next up at number 8 overall, we have the Seattle Kraken, and I have them selecting another defenseman here, this time Zeev Buium from the University of Denver, national champion, that is. Buium, to me, is a really gifted player here, another left shot D. And to be honest, I think there's lots to like between Buium and Parekh, and I really think that you can make an argument that they're both the best player available for the previous pick, which is why I think the Sens go with Parekh instead of Buium. But for Seattle to have him to be the anchor on their back end for years to come would be an absolutely phenomenal pickup. They've drafted a lot of forward heaviness in the past drafts, and I think to get a stud defenseman here with the selection would be an absolutely huge pickup for Seattle. I suspect he probably plays another year of college hockey before turning pro, but we'll have to wait and see. But an absolute standout player. Could be more of a Jake Sanderson type player. I'm not saying he's going to be Sanderson, but this kind of gives me a little bit of comparison there on how he plays. At 9 overall, we have the Calgary Flames. And the way this draft is played out, they would be able to get Tijia Ginla at this selection. Honestly, I think it feels like fate for him to end up being a Calgary Flame. If for some reason it's not looking like he's going to be available, I think the Flames do everything in their power to try to move up here. Wouldn't be shocking to me that in a Jacob Markstrom trade that they get another first-round pick and use that in conjunction with this one to move up to grab him. He's going to be a phenomenal goal scorer. There's obviously the history there with his dad. To me, I think it works out. But the way this run-on defenseman is likely going to go, I'm not sure they're going to have to move up to get him. 10th overall pick belongs to the New Jersey Devils, at least for now, and I have them selecting defenseman Carter Yakimchuk. Now, I don't think New Jersey's going to be making this pick, to be completely honest. I honestly wouldn't be shocked if they pull off a trade with the Flames for Markstrom, and this pick is involved. And Calgary ends up picking 9 and 10, and they get the local product from the Calgary Hitmen, Carter Yakimchuk. Right shot defenseman, 30-goal scorer, got great size, could be a great building block to help rebuild that blue line in years to come. But even if he is a Devil and they hold on to this pick, I think there's lots to like about the player that they'd be quite content taking him here regardless. At 11 overall, we have the Buffalo Sabres. I have them selecting the Finnish player Konsta Helenius. Now, not sure the Sabres are going to hold this pick either. I really think it's likely that they do move it. But Helenius, if they are picking, would be a pretty good selection for them. Different kind of player that they have in their system. Pretty solid two-way forward here. Can be a real good mix for what they have. He may not be a first-line player. To me, he might end up being more of a really good two-way second-line player. But either way, I think he complements the existing group of young forwards well that the Sabres have. Picking next at 12 overall, we have the Philadelphia Flyers. At this selection, I have them taking Berkeley Catton. Catton in some of my previous drafts has gone a little bit higher, but right now with the way things are looking, I think he might fall to the Philadelphia Flyers. A little bit of a smaller player, but a very dynamic playmaking center. I think Daniel Briere, the GM of the Flyers, might see some of his own self in this player, to be completely honest. Ideally, you think with Mitchkov being on the way, they might want somebody with more size. But this guy's super talented, over 100 points this year in junior. Just too much to pass up, I think, for them. I think if Catton's on the board at 12, the Flyers absolutely take him. At 13th overall, we have the Minnesota Wild, and I have them selecting American-born player Cole Yzerman. Yzerman might be known as being more of a specialist here, but could be the best goal scorer possibly in this draft. Great shot. Certainly what he's known for. I think at this point in the draft at 13, he could easily be a top 6 winger that the Minnesota Wild covet with this selection. I don't see them going with some of the smaller centers or that are available here at this point in the draft. I think they kind of have an idea what they want or what they have down the middle anyways. And to me, Yzerman as a goal-scoring winger just makes a ton of sense for them. Next up, we have the San Jose Sharks. Of course, this pick came via trade, and I have them selecting Stan Solberg, the Norwegian left shot defenseman, 6'2", very mobile, great skater, and certainly known for his physical play. Considering this is their second first-round pick, they've got Macklin Celebrini already in their back pocket here after selecting first overall. Adding a player like Solberg for the back end with the physical play and size, to me, just makes a ton of sense here. A bit of a player who's kind of gone a little bit underrated, I think, in my opinion, so far, and certainly has moved up more so in my rankings lately. At 15th overall, we have the Detroit Red Wings, and I have them selecting from the Oshawa Generals, Beckett Senek. Senek is a 6'2" winger who's really rising up the charts here in the second half of the year. He's going to be an ideal winger who can put the puck in the net for somebody who's got a pretty solid centerman to play with. Like if he could be on a line with a guy like Larkin, for example, they would be a terrific type of match. But at the same time, I think he's a really hardworking player too. He can play with any kind of top 6 center, to be honest. I think he's a player that a lot of teams would love to get in the middle part of this first round. At 16th overall, we have the St. Louis Blues, and I have them selecting Michael Brandsegg-Nygaard, the right winger. To me, would be a terrific fit here for the Blues. He's certainly, to me, a really complete player. And overall, too, like the thing a lot of scouts say about Nygaard is he's one of the players that is kind of viewed upon as being closest to being NHL ready amongst a lot, especially amongst this middle group of players. So to me, the Blues would not be waiting long to get him up to the pro ranks. At 17th overall, we have the Washington Capitals, and I have them selecting defenseman Adam Jiricek. I think the Capitals need a variety of things for the future of their team, but I think a solid two-way puck-moving defenseman would work well for them. I know Jiricek obviously had a major injury this year and didn't get to play nearly as much as he was hoping, but there's still lots of talent there, fully recovered, should be ready to go for next year. So Jiricek to me makes a lot of sense here for the Washington Capitals to start working on building the future of their blue line with guys like Carlson not getting any younger. At 18th overall, we have the Chicago Blackhawks. Of course, they recently swapped with the New York Islanders amongst some picks here to get this one. And I have them selecting Igor Chernyshov. Chernyshov to me makes a lot of sense here. Obviously, to add to the big right shot defenseman they take at number 2 is a big skilled winger who can absolutely fly down the wing. Great fit for a potential top 6 forward down the road, and it could be a great fit to work with guys like Bedard and the other young forwards in the Chicago Blackhawks system for the future. With the 19th pick, we have the Vegas Golden Knights, and we have them selecting U.S. defenseman E.J. Emery. Emery's a right shot defenseman from the United States National Team program. The Vegas Golden Knights have only used one of their 7 first-round picks they've had so far in the team history on a defenseman, and I think that changes here at this point in the draft, assuming they don't make a trade to move this pick. Eric Brandstrom previously been the only D they've selected in the first round, who they eventually ended up trading. I think they have a lot of defensemen that are going to be probably moving on in the next couple of years, and then they still need to start rebuilding the pipeline of D in their system. And I think Emery, to me, is a terrific option here. He's one of the better young American-born D in this draft. 20th overall, we have the New York Islanders, and I have them selecting Jet Lushenko, centerman from the Guelph Storm of the Ontario Hockey League. He's another high-rising player, had a really good showing at the NHL Draft Combine in Buffalo. Certainly, I think that with what they have coming up here through their system, which unfortunately for the Islanders isn't a lot, I think he can provide a lot of speed down the middle, high compete level, strong hockey sense. May not be a first-line player, but to me, he could be a great complementary second-line piece to add to their system here. So for me, like I said, he skates well, really smart, has some offense, and could be a great pick here for New York. 21st overall, we have the Los Angeles Kings, and we have them taking American-born forward Trevor Connolly, left winger, currently playing for the Tri-City Storm. Certainly Connolly's a bit of a prospect here that gets different reviews. He's had some off-ice issues that certainly have tainted his image, and for some teams it's going to be shying away from him, even though he's a highly skilled player. Certainly the talent is there. There's no doubt about that, but it seems like in recently here that he's done some good work to repair his image and maturity, but I know there's some teams that'll shy away from him. Otherwise, he could go higher here. But considering we've seen some of the Kings move out some of their prospects lately, he could be a great piece to add to the mix here going forward. At 22nd overall, we have the Nashville Predators, and I have them selecting Cole Baudouin. Baudouin from the Barrie Colts here of the OHL centerman. One of the hardest working players in this draft, there's no doubt. He's got size. He can be a matchup type of centerman that can play in the NHL. I don't think he's going to end up, lighting it up offensively. He draws some comparison to a guy like a Boone Jenner. So he can be like a really hard-working type of leader who can be more of a shutdown centerman who can certainly chip in with some offense, maybe a 20-goal scorer. But for this point in the draft, I think it's great to get that kind of a role player here for a team like Nashville. At 23rd overall, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I have them selecting Liam Greentree from Windsor. Certainly the left winger had a pretty good year. His team, on the other hand, did not get the wear of the C, so certainly good leadership skills for sure. I think he's a player that Toronto could take a chance on at this point in the draft. There are some concerns over his skating, and there are some that say that his compete level is not as consistent as they'd like to see game in and game out. But at this point, I think teams are going to be more than willing to take a chance. There's there's some high-end skill there, to be honest. And I think sometimes he's just a prospect that when you watch him, leaves you wanting a little bit more. But where Toronto's picking here, I think the potential upside long-term is good to take a chance on him. At 24th overall, we have the Colorado Avalanche, and we have them selecting Sasha Boisvert, currently playing in the U.S. for the Muskegon Lumberjacks. A Canadian-born player, though, really well liked by a lot of scouts. Lots of good things to say about him. Certainly, there's some that feel he could move up and be a top 15 pick, but we'll see if that ends up developing or not. Certainly has the size and the skill and the competitiveness to be a pretty good NHL center. Certainly, they want to add some more size down the middle in their prospect group, and Boisvert, to me, with his high IQ and compete level, is a great option for the Avalanche at this point in the first round. At 25 overall, we have the Ottawa Senators. This was originally the Bruins' first rounder, and I had them selecting Ryder Ritchie from the Western Hockey League's Prince Albert Raiders. The right winger, I think to me would make a lot of sense here for the Sens. If this draft goes down the way I have it mocked out, then they're going to get a really good defenseman with their higher first rounder at number 7, and then they can get themselves a good winger to add to their forward depth here as well. Certainly considered what many call a crafty, skilled winger who can be a really strong skater. The skating alone, I think, will get him to the NHL. Makes a lot of sense with what the Sens have in the forward pipeline. There's not as much there as there used to be. A lot of their top forward prospects are now on the roster and have graduated. They need to start rebuilding that. If they keep this pick, that is, it wouldn't be shocking if they end up moving it. But if they are selecting, Ritchie makes a lot of sense based on who's available. Next up at 26th overall, we have the Montreal Canadiens by way of Winnipeg from the Monahan trade, and I have them selecting centerman Michael Hage. I think Hage would be a great pick here for Montreal. If they do end up getting Demidov like I have here earlier in the first round, he could be a terrific winger. And we know they got tons of young defensemen, so they're likely not going to go that route. Makes sense to add another forward, especially somebody who can play down the middle where you've already got a really skilled winger here. I mean, to me, Hage makes a lot of sense for them. He's got a good blend of skating and playmaking, and could be a great choice for a potential future top 6 centerman. At 27th overall, we have the Carolina Hurricanes, and I have them selecting Swedish centerman Lucas Pettersson from Modo. I think this makes a lot of sense for the Hurricanes as they, have a guy like Jordan Stahl down the middle, for example, not going to be there forever. Eventually, they're going to have to need some more centermen to kind of move up through their system. And Pettersson, to me, makes a lot of sense. To me, he's got a lot of skills. He was well liked by a lot of scouts and makes a lot of good sense here for the Hurricanes at this point late in the first round. At 28th overall, we have the Calgary Flames, and I have them taking a chance on defenseman Henry Muse of the Ottawa 67s. It's possible Muse might slip a little further in the list here, but he's a high-risk, high-reward right-shot defenseman. To me, he's got a skill set a lot of guys don't have. There's certainly a little bit of a concern with his decision-making, but to be honest, I think that's something that can be worked on. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I have them getting a Ginla at 9, which would be phenomenal for them. I think there's a real good chance they could trade with New Jersey with involving Markstrom and maybe get number 10, and then they'd have this pick as well. There's probably, I would think, maybe a good chance they don't make all 3 selections, but if they did and they could walk away here with picks 9 and 10 and this one and get some 3 really good prospects, that could really accelerate things in the rebuild. But Muse is a little bit of a project, but I think if they hold all 3 first-rounders, it's worth taking a chance at this point in the draft. At number 29, we have the Dallas Stars, and I have them selecting Tarek Periskak. Periskak from the Western Hockey League's Prince George Cougars. He's a highly skilled, really smart forward who had a massive rookie season in the Western Hockey League this past year. There are some concerns over his skating, but again, we've heard that a lot, and a lot of guys have overcome that with the amount of resources at their fingertips and skating coaches. They can certainly overcome that for sure. But Periskak, to me, this has a lot of talent. The Dallas Stars have a really deep team. They don't have a pressing need for him to get to the NHL ASAP or anything like that. They've had a lot of good luck with their young guys lately, with Wyatt Johnson, Maverick Bork, etc. They can take their chance and let this guy really work on things for a few years before getting to the NHL. At 30th overall, we have the New York Rangers, and I have them selecting Dean Letourneau. Now, Letourneau, to me, makes a lot of sense for the Rangers. He's got a lot of size. He's 6'6", can really skate, has good offensive tools as well. Clearly, they've put an emphasis on size lately with the the Rumpy factor. I don't think they'll be at this point in the draft would not be afraid of getting another guy who can be like a big monster, can play a power game. So to me, I think he's an option for the Rangers with this 30th selection. So that is my first 30 selections for the 2024 NHL Draft. We'll be doing another updated version here again once we have all 32 picks in the first round confirmed, once we have the Stanley Cup Champions crown. So stay tuned for additional deeper drafts as the draft gets closer and closer here. So let me know your thoughts on all the selections I've made today, as well as your opinions on where some of these players will go down in the comments, and we can have a good conversation in that section of the video. So thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned for lots more draft coverage, as well as all your daily updates on the NHL news and rumors from around the entire league. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.